Alright guys, this video is sponsored by Blownbudgetoffroad. Billy's fixing to upgrade his machine, and if any of you guys are interested in buying it, here's the full rundown on it. It's actually in very good condition. If you guys are curious on the rundown of it, here's the full spec sheet. I'm gonna throw up some images of it now, but it's in good shape.
Yeah.
Been meticulously maintained. I can promise you that. So, what do you got?
All right, guys. So it's a 2020 Turbo S Dynamics. It has 1,500 miles on it. All fluids were changed after 25 hours. I mean, everything, basically after every trip. I don't know why I did it that much. Turner Nitro axles, front and rear, KB3 drive shaft, BS sand suspension seats, both driver and passenger. It's got cryo heat transmission, low gears, gear reduction, which is a 33% low, 12 high in reverse. It's got aftermarket Assassin's tunes. I got the stage 3 and the stage 4. AA full clutch kit with everything, helix, performance helix and all that. ZRP pole plate, Keller Mega ball joints in the front, performance side-by-side bushings all around, full ORB hill killer suspension with the forward arms and trailing arms and radius rods and all that. Extreme Razor performance tender springs. It's got a razor sharp customs cage with the bed delete, skinny pedal fab bed delete, I should say. Warren Axon 4500, the S synthetic, SuperATV billet rear carrier bearings, gear grabber shifter, 15-inch 5+1 KMC grenades, custom powder coated to match. It's on 32 sticky Zillas, sandcraft limit straps front and rear, sandcraft RS1 billet front diff kit, trail armor 1/2-inch skid, Hess 4x4 override switch. It's got the AA boost tubes, which I should have said earlier, Evo blow-off valve, sandcraft carrier bearing, which isn't on it at the moment. I put a stock one back in, but it'll come with it, and rough country light bar. And other little things are like, it's got the Polaris like HD wheel bearings and stuff like that. It runs and rides like a new machine. You wouldn't be disappointed. So contact me on my personal Facebook
Or email.
Or email the page.
Yeah, the email's down in the description below.
So I'm asking $30K for it.
Did you say anything?
Yeah, last thing I want to mention was, what do you got, like 50K invested, realistically?
Probably.
So I don't mean to be any kind of flex or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, if somebody's looking for a built rig,
yeah,
it's a serious deal.
It's no expense spared, basically.
Yeah.
I built it with the best of everything that I could possibly buy, pretty much.
The only parts that someone still could buy are built motor parts and a big turbo.
Yeah, that's literally all it's missing if you want it is big power, but for what we do, it wasn't needed. And yeah, hit me up or hit up the channel. Thanks. Just one.
All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Definitely a different video than normal. We good here? We all in there? Oh yeah, we're all good. Definitely different video than normal. If you're catching this and you're a normal viewer, I always had thought maybe just play this while you're driving to work if you don't have time to sit down and listen to us talk, because that's what this is going to be. So just wanted to say that right away. But we wanted to talk about the new Polaris models and talk about whether or not that is something that one of us or each of us would actually be interested in getting, or if we are getting one now, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the differences and like some of the stuff that's not exactly like on paper, kind of like real world of what you figured out from like looking at different pictures and stuff like that. But I know there's a lot of info out on these things, but I know a lot of you guys are curious what we think in the actual like hardcore rock crawling application and hill climbing and stuff. So figured it'd be interesting to sit down here. We're loading up for our next trip, which get excited for that. We're going to Hollywood and then Black Mountain. So you guys know that'll be a beatdown for sure.
And all of us are going.
Yeah, the gang's all here, as you can see. So that's exciting. And we're meeting up with a bunch of people, so it should be a fun time. Weather looks okay, but anyways.
Looks like it might snow.
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, anytime we go riding, it typically rains or snows, so that's exciting. But should get a good day or two at least. But shit, where is I gonna go from that?
So we're gonna just start right into it with the
Turbo R. Billy, how much do the Turbo R models cost?
So you have 3 different trim levels for the Turbo R. You got the Turbo R Sport, Turbo R Premium, and Turbo R Ultimate. The Sport comes in at $25,999. That's MSRP, by the way. The Premium's $29,999, and the Ultimate is $32,999.
So, my opinion, this is probably the one that I would buy. The cheapest one, $25,999. Whatever.
9.
26,000. There, round it up.
Yeah.
Anyway, that one pretty much has the Pro XP chassis still. It has the same style motor, the same style transmission. It still has an RS1 diff. I'm not sure if it's the Pro R or the Turbo R or both, but it looked like the front chassis design allows the RS1 diff to come straight out the front now, which is great for guys like me that it's gonna blow on this upcoming trip. Or the first day, you know, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, you can still low gear it. It still has the same predictable, like, drivability, like belt life. Like, I mean, we already know what it is. It has a 96-inch wheelbase.
It does have a different low gear.
Yeah, it is low gear stock.
So whether it's low enough, we don't know until
until you
get
really
one.
are wheeling it.
But it's probably better than what it used to be. The suspension is the same similar design to the Pro R. So the Turbo R still has the M14 bolts that hold the front A-arms on, which are straight beef. It has the shock mounted to the lower A-arm too.
Which I've seen some questionable things on that. Have you guys seen that? Where I think someone raced it in one of the recent races and the axles were hitting the shock and they blew like 4 shocks.
Yeah, I did.
Because it wore the metal out.
Like
That was in the Baja.
I'm sure that'll be a recall or something, but for us, which, you know, we ride really hard. If you guys are new here, we typically are rock crawl, hill killing kind of guys. Like, that's what we do. And for some reason, we end up bowing the axles like all the time.
Oh yeah, mine are bent right
Yeah,
now.
like
They're the RC
even
Pro
built
2
axles.
strongest ones.
Yeah,
You're
mine
running
are bent
Turners.
too.
Mine are built their RCVs. Josh has built their RCVs.
Bananas.
All bent. Yeah, so it's like, hopefully the axles are strong enough we don't have to worry about that, but that would definitely be a concern of mine personally. If the shocks, you know, if the axle's running through the shock, now you bent an axle, are you now going to take out a $3,000 shock or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know the price of the shocks.
That was a good point. I never even thought of that. That right there alone pretty much makes me not even want one. Because I already know I'm going to bend and destroy axles, so it just is what it is.
Another note is, like, when we bend these axles, they don't do anything. Like, we're fine to keep running them. They don't affect us in any way. So it's like, that's definitely a downside in my opinion.
And shocks are expensive.
But like I said,
We also don't know though how much room it actually is there. You
Yeah.
know, we've never like seen one in person per se. You know.
right. And like I said, maybe the axles are stronger. I know the machine. So I don't know too much about these because I'm sticking with the old X3 for a while, but
It's got the toe link.
I don't
in the
know
rear.
do you know what axles the Turbo R has?
I'm pretty sure they're the
think it's
same
the
because
same
they're all
thing.
74 inches wide. Pretty sure the front A-arm, like everything is the same
Okay.
besides the trailing arms.
Yeah, I was
because
just
they're
curious if
longer.
it was like similar to a Turbo S axle or if it's like the new beefy one.
The new beefy one
Yeah.
that makes the Turbo S
So maybe they
axle look
won't
like a
bend, you know,
YXZ.
maybe they won't bend and that won't be an issue. Just, that's what we're here for, to talk about concerns that like you wouldn't see floating the interwebs typically.
Yeah, a desert
you know.
rider doesn't
Yeah.
have these concerns. you
Right,
know.
yeah. So aside from that, those were 2-seater prices, right?
Yeah, those were all
Not worried
two-seaters.
about 4-seater prices,
So
but I was
going-
just curious that.
Going forward with concerns, high clearancing all the suspension, like that's always important in our eyes. What ability for high clearance on the A-arms, lower A-arms do you get with the shock now mounted down low? Does that even allow builders like ORB to even do it? What about in the rear with the toe link? Like, does that really matter? Can they arch it? Can they put a bend in it to give it high clearance? Like, stuff like that matters.
Which that is, I mean, that's really huge. Like the front, really, we haven't noticed. Well, I guess, I mean, high clearance front's nice, but the trailing arms really hang you up on.
Yeah,
Everything,
trailing arms
like
are
they're-
huge.
Yeah, so if they can't, you know, make that work in a design, you know, that's a huge concern for what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with, I mean, the longer wheelbase you have, the more the trailing arm comes into play too for the breakover angle.
Right.
So now this thing's got a 96 inch wheelbase. So not terribly long, or or more long, I guess I should say, than the old Pro XP. I think it was the same, right?
Yep.
So not any longer than that, but when we get into the Pro R discussion, like that thing's even longer with those style trailing arms. So it'd be nice to be able to have a high clearance, which in my opinion, I'm sure somebody will figure out a way to make some sort of high clearance arch something.
I also think it'll be a lot more expensive.
Yeah,
there's a lot more to do, and
there's a lot more research and development.
Yeah, to keep the geometry and stuff all.
Which might take away from like the +2 forward A arms because of the shock mounting locations. So you might not
be the axle going through it. I mean, that's.
But in theory, the wheelbase is so long, you probably don't want to stretch it anyways. But
I mean, it sure seems like everybody's trying to get the Can-am wheelbase, if you ask me. So
yeah,
100%.
100, 102, 104. Some guys with the buggies run 106. You don't see anybody really longer than that, shorter than that.
So I know a question a lot of you guys will ask is, did we get one? Are we getting one? Why don't you get one? And that's just another reasoning. And I'm not saying that none of us are going to buy one, because like it piques all of our interest, but that's just another downside, is that now, for what we're trying to do, like we're trying to build the most capable rigs you can, and unfortunately they're not the best for rock crawling right out of the box with all the lower hanging suspension, so. Also,
none of us are really truly dedicated set up for rock crawling either. Like, we have high clearance suspension, and that's what makes Justin's a rock crawler.
Yeah.
He could go race it on a track, whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
my Billies are basically the same thing too, except we messed with the low range. I mean, it doesn't take away from our ability to be well-rounded and do whatever we want still.
Right. Which I think this rig could definitely do that too. My point was, with the last thing I said, was just basically, we're at the mercy of who knows how long it takes to R&D the high clearance stuff, and that's what sucks about buying a new model, big time. But that's something you gotta give up if you're willing to buy a new model, Like,
yeah, I mean, like everything. I mean, like drive shafts and axles, which I'm pretty sure RCV has a hold of one already, or on order for a Pro, so.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, but just so, that stuff will be coming, but I guess.
But in my point, it's like, I was really interested in the Honda Talon back when I bought my Can-am, so a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Super interested in the Talon when I bought mine.
And I was like, all right, sick, somebody's got to come out of the locker like stat,
It's just now available.
I think it took 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like, if we were sitting here waiting for a locker that long, that would have sucked, So
that was one of my biggest reasons I didn't buy it.
Yeah. And I know the i4-wheel drive works great, but that's not what this is all about.
Not nice.
Anyways, moving on to anything else with the
Turbo R. Big plus, if it is true that the front design of the chassis allows the diff to come out the front, which is huge.
Well,
I'm gonna break it.
A downfall though, also, I'm pretty sure it is on the Turbo R. I'm like 95% sure that the steering motor box is on the rack now. So if your rack becomes loose or whatever, you take a big hit, that steering box is built into the rack. So you got to buy a new steering box and a rack, which I would assume probably isn't going to be a $200 rack anymore.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty high up there.
But like we've said, we're almost trying to pick these things apart, basically.
Right.
So
from internet pictures and whatever we can read from magazines and whatever.
If they're building off the Turbo S platform, in my opinion, the thing's going to be an animal out of the box. I mean, the Turbo S is a great machine out of the box.
Stock.
Yeah, it's strong, so hopefully the rack's strong enough, all that kind of stuff.
It should be the strongest Polaris they've made. It's always have gotten stronger.
Yeah, it seems
like higher end models.
It seems like it'll be an animal. It does kind of suck to see the Pro or the Turbo R come with the same RS1 diff, but I know for the general population that's fine.
Yeah, they're a really good diff for 90% of people.
Right. And the aftermarket support's gotta be. I mean, there's some stuff out there. You're running some stuff for it, but
there's a spool and a Sandcraft makes like full billet, caged, all that fancy stuff.
So if you do break it, I mean, there's going to be more options, but there is a couple already. So that's kind of good to know. I don't know if, I guess we haven't really talked about, I know it's similar. So a guy like me coming from Can-am, and maybe there's other guys that are switching platforms or whatever, but there's 3 different models, which from what I understand, it's the same as the Pro XP. So there's, so, but comparing it to the Turbo S platform, or lineup, I should say, you know, there's the base model one, so similar to like the Velocity, like Josh has, where it doesn't have ride command and it doesn't have dynamics. Now the middle tier is ride command, so it's got the touch screen and that stuff.
Maybe a few.
I think it has like a roof and like little random things, but still not dynamics.
Right, and then the full-on one, which is what, the Platinum, I think? Ultimate or whatever.
This ain't no 4.
Yeah, sorry, not the Platinum, but and then that one's got everything. So, and I just wanted to mention that because comparatively to the Turbo S platform, it was just base model or fully loaded. So, in my opinion, it's kind of cool to see another option if you don't want that extra $8,000 or whatever it used to add from base to full, and you want the touchscreen. Like, it's cool that they're innovating and kind of trying to hit every, you know, person. But
yeah, because I like mine cheap, but still the best.
Yeah, so.
Or the best of the brand.
So I think that about wraps up the Turbo R.
Yeah,
it's got a 1-piece chassis, I believe, and the cage is supposedly stronger. The seats are adjustable. I mean, it's pretty much the Pro XP still with tweaks and upgrades.
The Ultimate has 3-inch front shocks now instead of the 2.5s like the Turbo S had. Only on the Ultimate, on the Dynamics.
Okay.
And the Dynamics is obviously different too. It's got the rebound and compression adjusted separately, which is all new. But that, you know, that goes with the Pro R too. So they're kind of both the same in that aspect.
All right, so moving on to the Pro R.
I think so. The only question I had was, does anybody know if the 4-seat Pro XP is the same wheelbase as the old Pro XP?
No idea, I haven't looked.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Like 120 something.
Yeah, it's a little longer than the Turbo S was.
I was just curious, you know.
It's not as long as the Can-am 130.
I know there's a lot of 4-seater guys out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, me having a kid, it makes you wonder, like, what would your 4-seat option be? And 4-seat, I'd almost want the shortest one, you know, to be closer.
Turbo S.
Yeah, so it's still like a Turbo S. I was just curious if anybody knew the wheelbase of that. I never looked it up, but I'm so far away from 4-seat life, so hopefully I'll never be there. Hopefully they'll be in their own rigs or something, or the wife will be in a rig. But anyways, we'll move on to
the Pro R.
Yeah.
So the big dog that comes out. We're gonna start with the price.
Yeah. So the 2022 Pro R Sport, so that's like the base model, is $32,000 MSRP. Yeah, that one. These ones hurt me personally, but the Pro R Premium, which is the middle grade, is $35,000, and the Pro R Ultimate is $38,000.
It's gonna be a no for me, dog.
And then the Pro R Ultimate Launch Edition is $41,000. So
I'm out.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's rough for some paint.
Yeah, that hurts.
Special colors.
Yeah.
Especially that ugly one.
That hurts for sure. But yeah. So I mean, this is the one. This is what everybody's talking about, right? You know, it's a completely different platform. I know Billy has done a lot of research, probably the most. And I think
I'm pretty well researched on
Josh follows up, and I'm just kind of lurking in the comments sometimes.
Guy. Yeah. Well, I'll still be faster than you.
Yeah, in the comments.
So, bringing up that point, what's it got for a power plant?
It's got the 2-liter 4-cylinder ProStar motor, which is all new this year. So obviously nobody really knows.
So I'm gonna be that guy in the comment. Is it just the slingshot engine?
It is not. They did change that. So it's got different things like I think it's got like a lighter crank and flywheel and stuff to make it rev faster with the CVT.
And it was designed to run cooler because of off-road.
Yep.
And I believe it was also designed to run at better angles and stuff for oil pressure. I think I seen something about that.
Yeah, it's got like a dry sump system.
Yeah, so it changed the oiling system.
And speaking of the cooling on the belt system is also probably the best it's ever been.
Yeah, there's like 2 intakes now, I think, for the belt.
That
Yeah, it's
flows
some crazy.
the air on both sides of it.
Yeah, it's some wild
We
stuff.
gotta hope the clutchings don't explode.
Yeah,
I've seen
'cause
posts
they're-
about
They're
that.
right behind your seat, so you'll just die now instead.
Because it's as big as a basketball.
Yeah, they're huge.
And we all know the Pro XP, the last model that Polaris dropped, had some serious issues with some of those. Just some, I think, but.
So if anybody wants to make us a switch, ejecto primary, cuz.
But, so yeah, that's the motor. What does that put down for power?
225.
225.
And that's crank
We don't know.
horsepower.
They didn't say.
That's what we don't know. Yeah.
But typically they've always,
They didn't say.
but in the past it's always
always
been crank.
But we don't know.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess take that for what it's worth. In my opinion, it's going to be crank. You know,
Yeah, I would-
everybody always advertises the higher number. You know, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
But,
Who wouldn't? Ford,
yeah.
Dodge, and Chevy.
Can-Ams are pretty close to the power too. They're pretty lenient on how much power their machines make.
Yeah.
I know they dyno almost what they advertise, which is
Really?
a lot. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So,
So speaking of the horsepower, now the Pro R has a different style of driveline. So we don't know how well that driveline will put the power to the ground either. So that is still a big question for everyone.
Yeah.
so we started at the motor. I mean, what is the trans? Does anybody know? Is it just some sort of,
It looks like to me like the turbo trans just without the rear diff built into it. So it's
Okay.
kind of just like it's skinnier, it's off to the side, and then obviously now it has the front and rear drive shaft, so they're separated.
so is it, and this is how much I know about it, is it a divorced transfer case now? Or transmission, I should say?
Yeah.
So like the YXZ, there's,
Yeah, it's like the YXZ.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool in my opinion.
So for all you lovers of the YXZ,
Oh,
it also
geez.
has the front output torque limiting thing to the front drive
A lot
line,
of people probably don't even know that.
which is actually a great thing.
It was
So,
cool. I mean, we still blew shit up, but it was cool.
Yeah, you could definitely see it work. It's a
Yeah.
good idea. We'll put
Yeah.
it that way.
So we can hope that the idea has been mastered. And it seems like, you know, with the stuff we've talked about and the more stuff that, more things that they've taken from other machines, like taking the general idea, we'll call it, and kind of, seems like it's all thrown into this one,
Yeah.
which is
yeah,
sick.
Pretty much
So,
seems like the best little idea from every aspect of desert racing, whatever, racing, is in the Pro R.
So then moving on from the trans, we don't know the gearing. It says lower gearing, right? Or was
Yeah,
that?
low gearing.
So that's all we really know about the gearing. We can only hope that it's lower than what the Turbo
Yeah.
S and the Pro XP was.
What do you know about the rear diff?
Yeah, so moving to the rear diff, that's its own
Yep.
rear diff now.
It's its own, it's its own,
And
literally
that's
just
locked,
like a YXZ.
just spooled
Yep,
locked.
spooled locked,
Yep.
that's it. There's not really much info on that, really. It looks big in all the pictures and videos I've seen, it looks pretty beefy. The reason they did it, I guess, is because it's skinnier, so they could get more travel in the back, which is why they
Oh,
changed
really?
it, yeah.
That's interesting.
Because it's not the complete transmission anymore, it's just
Yeah, right.
a little diff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Alright, so moving to the front diff now, we have changes.
And maybe you guys said it, but just want to clarify the torque output limiter, which is what I'm calling it, but that was on the trans output for the front drive shaft.
Yeah,
Correct?
so it's like a
in
clutch,
the
basically.
trans.
Yeah, so to break it down, it's like, we don't know for sure, but it's the
like a
YXZ
clutch.
that had a similar thing, had basically like a clutch pack, and on a hard hit, it should slip that,
Yep.
is the theory, so. And then moving out of the front diff from there, you know, through the drive shaft, hopefully that's strong.
Yeah, the drive shafts look super beefy. I mean, they're like freaking this big. They're massive, but that doesn't really mean nothing, you know.
The
if
whole
it's gonna
car
be
says
small.
beef.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It looks, I mean, it's gonna be beef. It weighs like 3,000 pounds. Not really, but it's heavy.
It's heavy.
yeah.
Two something. But yeah, the front diff, it has, so I know a lot of people were getting this wrong. The front diff has open diff, 4-wheel drive, and 4-wheel drive lock. There's no modes for the front diff. All the modes that it has, which we'll get into later, are for different things. So it's just 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive open diff, 4-wheel drive lock.
So I know we've been comparing things to the YXZ, but we all had one. That's exactly how
Same
that
thing.
was. Also, if you're coming from the Can-Am world, the Halo 30 diff that doesn't come in the Can-Am, but it's the built option for a Can-am front diff. Same thing, and
yeah, same theory.
in my opinion, it's great. You know, obviously, I have one, so maybe I'm a little biased that way, but I think it's best of both worlds. Full open diff for racetrack stuff, and full log diff for rock crawling.
Yeah,
you know?
it's simple. You can build it strong.
Right, because it's simple.
Yeah,
you
don't
can build
have
it
all
strong.
that clutch crap and.
So there's high hopes.
Yeah,
high hopes
there
for the
is high
theories.
hopes.
There. I mean, a machine coming with a strong drivetrain is huge. You know,
Yeah.
that's a lot of money to build a drivetrain.
My perspective, it appears that it is in an RS1 housing, which might not be true. It looks like it is.
Yeah, they look
So-
identical.
Hopes are it has the same ring and pinion gearing and a drive shaft output that maybe I could put it in my machine.
Right.
Yeah, that could be an option.
Don't know anything about it, but
Or maybe you can just hook up, maybe you can just put that whole diff if it looks like it's the same thing.
then we're in
that
the theory
whole
of
diff in
cups and axle size cups and
Oh, yeah,
all that
right.
nonsense.
But also, like, Polaris has always, I guess they haven't always, their old diffs weren't pretty, but the RS1 diff is pretty strong stock.
Yeah.
So if it's a little stronger than RS1 or similar and having that torque output in the front
Yeah,
of the trans,
right, just
I
to
mean,
take
it might
that-
be a bomb-proof setup. Like, people might not blow front diffs because we all know that's what kills the front diff is one hit like that,
Yeah.
you know, one solid hit and she done.
Oh no.
so moving on from there. So we've got motor, trans, diffs. We talk about
Wheelbase.
axles quickly. They seem
The axles are like double the size of the Turbo S.
and the Turbo S axles were pretty good.
Yeah, they were pretty
So
strong.
if they're building off of that, making it stronger, like we talked briefly about it with the, running through the shock. Hopefully they're strong enough that they don't have that issue, you know. But just a concern that we had, or I had. But moving on from there, I guess I'm kind of working outwards. So the hubs are a huge improvement.
Yeah, it's got like an automotive style.
Which was on the Turbo R2, we didn't say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're 5-lug wheels, which that kind of sucks because now you're gonna have to buy new wheels, and I don't think many people make them yet. They
Polaris
will.
has the Pro Armor wheels.
Yeah, I think they have some beadlocks
there are
out
some
already.
accessories out for it already.
You always
I
hate
think
to
Method
see
has them too already, but
you always hate to see a bolt pattern change, but in this sense, it's not just because they wanted to change it.
yeah,
At least there's
yeah,
good reasoning behind it.
it's
you know?
literally like a unit bearing like you'd find on a truck. So
Yeah,
it's.
that's really cool. To
I mean,
me.
it's not all just a bearing on your axle and all that torque and
So in
on your
theory,
axle stub.
in my brain, like hopefully that means that the brake pads and everything like that is more of an automotive style that will last longer, hopefully.
Yeah, I'd probably say, because I know they did change, that's another thing, for the Turbo R and Pro Rs, they have 3 piston front calipers
Yeah,
now
I've
and
seen
2
that.
piston rear, and the brake rotor is actually like, they look like the Brembo one that bolts together, like it's not like our hubs that are together with studs,
Right.
you know, so it's like completely different thing, which is really, really innovative in a UTV.
Yeah.
So they went with that style hub and the 5 lugs to compensate for the extra lateral load when you're like cornering and stuff. It's stronger for that style of load, which would be good for us for rollovers and hard hits on some
I think
big
that's
rock.
good
It's just
all around.
stronger,
Yeah,
it's better. It should just be better.
I've seen a post of some guy that like turns a certain direction on this track specifically and breaks his hub every time on a Turbo S. And he had a whole post about it. He couldn't race a certain track because the way it loaded it up
Yeah.
broke that hub. So I mean, I think all around it's a huge improvement. But
Yeah, but also it's probably gonna be, if you do end up ruining one, it's probably gonna be a lot more expensive
Yeah.
than just throwing in a wheel
maybe,
bearing.
but if they took, like they might have been able to retrofit some sort of hub that crosses with OE stuff.
Yeah, they might have.
You know, like they've done that with U-joints and things
Yeah.
in the past, which that to me was kind of an exciting point. I don't know if that's true, so don't hold me to it, but if that's just happened to be like a hub from, you know, an S10, for example, like,
Super WRX.
yeah, that'd be awesome if you could go to, you know, when you're in freaking Tennessee or Washington, wherever, and get
Yeah.
something that crosses. That
Go
would
to
be,
your local AutoZone. and
yeah,
have
that'd
it
be
on the
really
shelf.
cool. And if that's not the case, it should be. But I think that mainly covers out to the wheels.
Wheelbase.
Yeah, now I'll go wheelbase.
Me?
Really?
That's 104 and a half now. So
Why the half inch?
every inch matters.
Every inch matters.
But it's not a whole inch.
Every half inch, all right, come on now. So in my opinion, that's probably right where you'd want to be. I mean, as you guys have probably seen in a lot of videos, I mean, the Can-Am kind of shits on the Turbo S in a lot of instances when it comes to like crawling certain obstacles. Yeah, it hurts it in certain ones, and I mean, they both have their
Ups and downs.
Ups and downs,
Positive,
yeah.
negative.
But from like what we see in the real world and out wheeling, I mean, it doesn't really like hurt you much.
It typically doesn't stop you from making it. You might struggle, but
A little bit more,
Yeah.
but it does. He definitely still makes it, and then it helps him out in a lot. I think it helps more than it hurts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, check out one of the last videos at S'more. I was ready to sell my stuff back in it
yeah.
because of Wheelbase, not because of anything else.
But coming from Can-Am guy, you know, on the other side of it, I remember at Hawk Pride, those were mainly rock crawl trails. And I
Yeah.
remember getting hung up a lot more than you guys, just being a little bit longer and hitting that boulder or whatever, you know. But
yeah, the very true.
But yeah, I mean, the stability on the hills and stuff, it's a trade-off that I would still pick the Can-Am wheelbase after wheeling it, you know,
Yeah.
like it hasn't hurt me enough.
But then
to
again,
want
you know, that long wheelbase at 104.5 is going to really hurt if you can't get high clearance.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at earlier.
You know.
The trailing arm hanging down there on a 104-inch car, you know, like that's moving that high centering point, you know, even further. So
I mean, I'm sure everybody's seen the Hoonigan video of RJ Anderson just straight yeeting that thing from the sky and almost missing the complete landing ramp. I mean, that
Yeah, he
shows
based-
some
basically
serious
flat landed.
Yeah, he basically flat
right there.
landed
Like,
from
that's
like 50
insane.
feet.
And if you haven't seen it, check that out, because that's,
It's literally like 30 feet in the air and to straight a foot of the landing ramp. Like,
Yeah,
I think
don't
his
even know
front
if
right
the
tire
front-
missed the
Yeah,
landing.
I don't even think the front hit it.
it ate it. I mean, there's lots of, I've seen a lot of rumors that like, oh, but it's a built car. I'm pretty sure that car was factory.
It looked stock.
It looked factory. I mean,
the
even
shocks,
if it was a built car, I mean, still, it's
Yeah.
the same shocks and the A-arms and stuff. Like,
yeah, it was stock suspension. I know that 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, the A-arms and everything were stock.
and it was rough hit on the guy, but the car ate it. I mean, you could see the in cab of him taking a nice.
yeah, it was wrong.
Yeah, it probably would have put us to sleep.
But so moving away from wheelbase,
Now
I think we didn't actually talk about it because we always just change the tires anyways. But I think all of them have 32s, right?
Yep,
all the new
32s on
ones.
15-inch. They're not beadlock, so which is really
But
unfortunate.
they changed tires, so they're Maxxis, so they might stay on the bead this time.
Or
Maybe.
they might hook up to something. All right. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, they're not canines or warriors, so
Oof.
Go
Shots fired.
there.
Yeah.
I can't. Can't help myself.
So moving on from there, is there anything that you guys? Okay, we could talk about. I know we didn't talk about the modes. Personally, that hits me home because I love it.
So describe your
So
experience with that already.
I need
The-
to, let me,
the Can-Am. I'll just start with the Can-Am. What I've got. If you're from the Polaris world, you know you probably don't know much about it. But the Can-Am has Sport and Eco mode. And for me, at first, I was like, "That's dumb. I'm gonna leave it in Sport. Hell yeah, more power." You know,
More
it's
power,
the
baby.
same peak power. First of all, I don't know that the Polaris is this way. I'd assume so, but I'm just talking about the Can-Am right now and how it affected me. And the peak power was sick, or the Sport was sick. But then when I tried Eco for rock crawling, it took so much sensitivity out of the gas pedal that like when you're kind of bouncing in between rocks or jostling on rocks, you're not like doing that to the whole car. It's got like a dead pedal. So it feels great for car control, for rock crawling, and like getting on that specific line.
So basically, the throttle map in eco mode was probably like.
Yeah, if you were
that.
looking at like a
Sport
dyno
mode
graph.
was like cowabunga.
Yeah, so, and it's flick of the switch while you're moving, doesn't matter, you know, like, so for rock crawling, eco mode was sick. And also the belt engagement, I know it doesn't actually change the engagement, but it's changing the way the power comes in, so it's much smoother on the belt. Whether that's good or bad for the belt life in rock crawling situations, I don't know, but it doesn't do the slam into gear or engaging of, you know, the drive like the Polaris really does. I mean, if you just hit the gas, it's violent. you know,
I mean, we just always say Polaris because it just makes crazy noises.
Right. It'll thunk into gear and it just sounds right as. Bottom line, it doesn't really do anything. Like, you know, they typically don't break from that. But anyways, it feels great. Engagement's awesome for eco. Then you can put it in sport mode for hill climbing where you want the throttle response like that.
I know it also made a difference in his drivability in low range and high range.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's something that I've never really talked about in the Can-Am like specifically, but if you're starting off in low range, eco is great. If you're starting off in high range, like just to go on a trail ride, eco's not the greatest if you're on like an incline or you have big tires. If you flip it to sport, it brings the power in sooner, like we talked about, and engages it and gets you going. Where in high range, because the gearing's lower, or the gearing is higher in high range, clearly, eco kind of like slips the bellet, kind of like shuddery. So it's cool to use it differently. I mean, you know, it's a switch right there, so it's cool to use it to your advantage. So it seems like got some.
Polaris took those two modes and possibly made it one better, and Billy will describe what Polaris has now done.
Yeah, so I personally can't find what the modes are, but I know there's three. So for what this says is drive modes for sport cruising, which I'm pretty sure that's just sport. Then there's a rock crawling mode, and then there's the flat out flying mode.
So I would think
there's
rock
three
crawling,
modes.
really flat and generic, I would hope.
Yeah.
The sport would just be like linear, you know, and then flat out or whatever, just yeehaw mode, just
instant
all of the sauce right
response.
now. Quarter pedal, 100%.
So that's really cool. I mean, I'm not going to get into and explain the advantage of the whole thing again because I just did, but it seems like they did the same thing, if not made it a little better, by adding a middle ground. So
right, exactly.
That's really cool to see.
So it seems like the car has more tunability. Driving, suspension has rebound and compression control now with the dynamics.
Yeah.
And there's more modes to that too, not just what do I have? Comfort, sport, and firm is all I have on mine.
You have rock crawling and dunes.
Yeah, they have rock crawling, Baja.
Yeah, which
and this is what
makes
we were
the
talking
front
about.
of the car's ride height.
Sport and or comfort and race.
So I haven't seen too much about this, but you were saying people think the diff had those modes, but that's what you're talking about. It's just the suspension.
Yeah, it's just a suspension.
Or the throttle.
Or the throttle,
mapping.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's my basic understanding of it. I didn't see anything else, but I feel like it's put together all of the best ideas and attributes from cars that we've already seen. Now whether the car is the complete package is to be seen, but from what I've seen already, it doesn't seem like it's made a dent, but it's also in its own class now, which is different. So I don't know what's going to happen with King of the Hammers.
Have we talked? I don't think we mentioned width on any of them.
No.
But it's 74 inches wide.
Yeah.
Is the turbo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're all 74 inches wide, which
the Polaris Turbo S was that anyway from the factory, just advertised as 72.
Right. Which that's a true measurement, like straight from the dealer, they were 74 inches wide. They have two of them, so.
Another quick thing that we forgot to mention too before.
But that does bring me to a concern that, is this one gonna be 74? Is it gonna be 78, you know?
Yeah, it might be wider.
But anyways, something to note.
Another quick thing too before I forget, it does have an alternator and a belt.
Oh, I've seen that,
So it's got 1700 watts of power versus I think my Turbo S has like 800.
What do you need all them electrical amps for?
Hopefully the electric power steering is just a beast.
Yeah, all the light bars.
Yeah.
So that's another thing too
floor lockers.
is the modes. I'm pretty sure it's just on the dynamics actually affect the power steering as well. So when you put it in the different suspension modes, it'll give you more or less assist, so more.
Yeah, it does, because I remember someone saying that for rock crawling, it's obviously 100%, so you can steer in the rocks.
Yep. Yeah,
then you don't want that.
The suspension stuff's really cool. Like Baja mode lifts the front end up to try to skim over dunes and whatever. The whoops. It's pretty neat.
I believe it still has the oh crap button on the steering wheel. It's a full firmament when you're about to blow out your back.
Yep. Yeah, in rock crawling mode, it'll actually sense what degree of angle you're on, and if you're on a slope or a different angle, it'll actually you know, try to compensate for what you're like.
Which I thought that was really
like
cool
a side hill
for what we do. You know? That's definitely a downside of the Can-am. Like it feels like it wants to just fall over sometimes. But I run those sway bars too, so that's what's gonna bring me to the next point. It looks like they got like a gnarly like trophy truck style sway bar on the back of that thing.
Yeah, front and rear, they're like three-piece ones. Yeah.
So I don't know how that'll, you know,
it looks like it's taken some trophy truck technology.
Yeah, like that's what I was getting at, like a little bit from everything. So I don't think we really talk about speed and our opinion on that. Obviously, we're not huge on like fast straight line stuff, but everybody, you know, look at the horsepower number. It's more, you think it's going to be faster, but the concern that a lot of people have is the power to weight ratio. You know?
Yeah, I've heard it does 90 stock. I mean, that's pretty much been all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean,
or like acceleration.
How quick it gets to 90, we don't know that.
Yeah.
And my opinion is Honda Talon doesn't have that good of a horsepower number, but it puts the power to the ground the best.
Look at the YXZ. I mean, me and you raced on the road once, and we were neck and neck until like
and that was
60.
That was my turbo.
XP turbo?
XP turbo, yeah.
But you were just a gear reducted, tuned.
He didn't have gear reduction.
So it was just a tuned
Yeah, mine was tuned.
Right. But still, I mean, there's
how
something
the machine puts the power to the ground also makes a big difference.
Right. So literally you have no idea until they're out there being raced and stuff like that.
It's just something else to think about.
For the power putting it to the ground too, the clutches on this thing, obviously they're behind your seat, but they're also huge. So they're all completely new, so you won't be able to, which is kind of, it kind of sucks that you won't be able to use like your old springs or whatever, you know, like clutch kits now aren't going to work for this clutch. So it's all new, and it's all just bigger basically.
It's supposed to be bigger,
longer belt,
stronger, longer belt, all things to compensate for you guys adding more power and more heat to it.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Supposedly that's the theory. Whether or not it actually goes with hand in hand to real world application is to be seen. But
going back to power, does anybody look in to see, because I know this is what a lot of people probably Googled right away, was turboed, what are those things? Dang, I drew a blank. But the car that the motor was used to, the slingshot turboed.
Oh.
Does anybody have good luck? Because it sounded like the internals may be similar as far as like piston and crank go.
I think they're very similar.
Does anybody know, because I don't, that how well those motors can handle boost?
That I do not.
I think I've seen a couple over 400 horse slingshots.
I would assume it's coming. I mean, this NA motor is probably just going to be a base, and they're going to have a turboed one eventually. I would assume. But
yeah, I don't know that I agree with that. Like from Polaris' standpoint, like personally, but I feel like this is the top dog. I mean, what are they going to do? Be dropping $60,000 highway?
Yeah.
Maybe
at some point,
but I don't know. It was just
5 years from now.
It's just like when's too much power. You know, when's power enough?
Yeah.
You know, that's everyone.
I
That's
do think
all
people are gonna do. People are definitely gonna turbo it. There's definitely gonna be kits out.
Yeah.
I think Polaris, and this is obviously just my opinion, but I think they were choosing the NA route because it's almost less problems. You know, I mean, and anybody knows that from a car world, anything.
Well, yeah, I mean,
an NA build is simple. You know, you don't have turbo lag, you don't have turbos, you don't have any of the intercoolers, you don't have any of those issues. You don't have heat soak, like.
So there might be big bore kits coming.
It's got to be like a really special thing to drive too with that instant power. You know, I'm so used to running mine. I like play the lag. You know, you kind of drive with the lag.
Yeah.
The Can-Am's not as bad. They're kind of more sensitive, I feel. But the Polaris, if you just stab it from a stop, I mean, it lags pretty hard. So this new one should be, you know, it should be a pretty fun to drive with that much power being NA.
So yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me for them going NA route. But they're still putting down more power and they're NA.
Also, the motor makes 50 or 60 more foot-pounds of torque than the Can-Ams.
Yeah, I think they make.
So that
like
was a big number that nobody ever even talked about, which torque is a big deal.
It's kind of relevant. I have heard a lot of people speculating though. So now that I've been thinking about this turbo 4-cylinder, is people think that Polaris will drop like a 3-cylinder, kind of like the Can-Am, and keep it back down a 3-cylinder turbo and get rid of their 2-cylinder turbo. to keep that turbo thing.
People also thought this machine was coming out 3 years ago.
There was pictures of it like in 2017, but I mean in that aspect it would kind of make sense too, you know, to have that to compete, because who knows where this model's gonna fare, or like will it even be able to run King of the Hammers in the turbo class?
Yeah.
You know, it's not turbo. It's some big ass motor.
I got a good joke for you guys. See our new Speed UTV?
Oh.
He's gonna find me and eliminate me now.
Wait, does that mean you ordered one?
Yeah.
Got something to tell us, Josh?
No.
You might as well take your truck down the trail.
So, to kind of wrap this up, sort of, next thing I'm going to say is, would any of us buy one? Are we buying one now? What's the plan? Me personally, I'm not buying one now. I don't have any intentions of getting rid of the X3 for now. Just got so much money wrapped up into it that, you know, it's working for me. I'm happy with it, you know, until the thing's wrecked and folded in half because I tumbled down a mountain too many times, and maybe then I'd entertain the fact. But still, in my opinion, like,
He'd go Can-am again.
the price point, I don't know that I would, but the price point starting at is what gets me. And I know the argument is like, yeah, I've got a lot of money in my Can-am, like probably more. I don't even want to like say this out loud because it makes me sick, but probably more than what these ones are. But mine's done, you know, it's fully built, it's high clearance, everything. It's tuned, it's exhaust, it sounds good, it's caged, it's safe. Like
It handles the
it's the way I want it. Whereas we talked about it, you know, this thing doesn't have high clearance anything on it. Like it all looks like it hangs pretty low. So to me, like,
It doesn't have a cool steering wheel. It's got a nice steering wheel with all the fancy buttons in it.
yeah,
Doesn't have like the race one that most of us like.
it's tough, you know, like this is literally just my personal preference and where I'm at, like now in the side-by-side world, that I don't know that I'd want to start over, you know, like skid plates, like who knows, you know, there's another $800 thrown on the drain if it doesn't have something good. It's like, I'm already done with mine. So yes, I have a lot of money wrapped into it, but it's done. Now I just repair it when it breaks all the time. But, you know, and maybe, and the contrast to that, I think, is that it's not gonna break, you know? It's gonna be built, the diff's gonna be great, axles are gonna be great, suspension's gonna be strong, cage is strong, supposedly, maybe. Like that's the opposite argument to that, which may be true, you know? And if that's where I get at, maybe I would want one, because maybe after some people have them, that comes to be true, and then change my mind because it's already done. So that's just my 2 cents. If I were to pick turbo or pro, I mean, I really don't know. I haven't put any thought into that. You know, the money standpoint, like I said, obviously brings me to the turbo, but I do really like the new idea of the diff being selectable open or locked. And I do like the idea of I do like the sound. I guess probably because it sounds closer to a Can-am. I don't know, but I do kind of like the way it sounds, the new Pro. So I'd want that one, but I don't know that I'd spend the money. I guess it depends if it truly was like beef and built driveline was, then, you know, then I'd be more okay with forking out that money, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, also for you too, already having a Can-am that's built, you know, the new ones are still the same. So you could transfer a lot of your parts over, you know, like the built diff and all that. Would
Yeah,
right
switching
in.
if I
You know,
went
the
Can-am.
Polaris is all new. So you
Yeah.
nothing, like I can't take my Turbo S parts and put it on anything. Yeah, it's just, so something to consider.
So moving on to Josh.
So for me, if I was to buy one, which I'm not, but I would pick the Turbo R, and I would pick the cheap one, because it was hard enough just for me to buy a Turbo S Velocity. Personally, I see that car being better for our style of riding. Plus, it's already $8,000 cheaper than the cheap Pro R to roll down the mountain, and that's what we're gonna do. We don't care when we're out there wheeling. All of our things look like polished turds, even though they're really not that bad. Except Justin's. She's pretty rough.
Yeah.
But
Felt that one in my heart.
That's because of black plastic. Black plastic sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's white, it looks mint, even if it's just wrecked.
Yeah. I want to add to my comments too, like, yeah, that's just a lot of money to be tumbling down a hill, so.
To truly wheel like we are, have to not care about smashing into that rock.
But
or
I
hitting
will
that
say,
tree
if you don't
or-
wheel like this, maybe try it once, because it's a freaking blast, you know? Like, it really is. It's so much. I've tried to go to Michigan and ride the trails thing, which I know a lot of people love doing.
Yeah.
And, like, just not enough adrenaline
It's not the
involved.
same.
It's not the same. It hits different, you know?
I mean, our rigs, all things considered, don't really look that bad.
No, mine's a
They're
good,
beat up. but,
mine's
like,
a good
they're not that
15
bad.
footer. I think it graduated from a 10 footer to a 15 footer, but
Like mine, SC1, that thing, she looked brand new. Minus my metal doors that are all scratched up, but I got stock plastic
that's
ones.
my thing
fine.
too. Like, I literally just did a skid plate on mine, and the chassis is still straight. I could freshen it up. It's got new
Heading
skid.
home for me.
It looks mint. I could literally put new plastics on it for, you know, less than $1,000. I'm sure. I don't know exactly, and it would be a brand new rig.
Yeah.
You know. So
So I would buy a Turbo R because of aftermarket support for driveline and transmission and RS1 diff already. And we already know what that motor basically does and it turbo wise and all
that's the
that.
nice thing
Plenty
about
of power for
that's,
what we do.
It's got more than enough horsepower.
that's the nice thing about the Pro.
It's a longer wheelbase than what I have now.
The Turbo is it's a proven motor trans.
Now, if I was gonna go race King of the Hammers or something, then I'd be buying the Pro R, but that's just, I'm not to that blowing budget pocketbook yet.
Get some merch, get us there. We'll go race KOH if we had the funding.
Yeah, with
But-
a $10,000 RS1.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving along the line to the man himself.
Mr. Moneybags.
Yeah.
He just clicked order before we filmed this video. Not really. I don't
So
think.
I'd consider buying one if mine ever sold, which it is for sale, by the way. And it doesn't look as bad as these two guys. So
No.
don't let them get in your head now. And she
Oh, Billy's looks mint.
needs a couple new stickers, but
I was
she
just
meant-
at his house the other day. He was spit shining the transmission, and it was still in the car.
Realistically, you put a wrap on Billy's rig and that thing is freaking mint. Like,
Yeah, there's really nothing.
Yeah,
wrong.
he was
no,
polishing
he
an aluminum racer on something. It definitely.
Yeah,
She looks good.
it's a clean razor. It's built to do whatever, and you know, we ride pretty hard, but I take care of it. I mean, we all take care of our rigs.
It's for sale. Hit him up.
Yeah, it is for sale.
But the
But
channel.
if it did sell, the one that really intrigues me would be the Pro R. So, like Josh wants like Turbo R, which probably makes a lot more sense, but
Ah, jeez.
more power, baby.
I like the.
I will say before he keeps going, I just wanted to. You guys bring up good points. That if I was picking a new rig, you know, I'm pretty devoted to this YouTube thing. That's a big thing in the back of my mind, and everybody knows what the Turbo platform does. And I'd love to make videos with a new rig. Does that make me, you know, sell my $40,000 Can-am and do it? No, but if I was picking, that would weigh my opinion heavily.
I was gonna say that too.
Oh, so okay.
Because it would be cool, you know, like all three of us are just as curious as all of you guys
Yeah.
when it comes to this new machine. You know, how is it going to hold up? Who's going to come out with all this aftermarket stuff? You know, it would kind of suck in the beginning not having any of that shit. But
To be buying $600 stock axles.
yeah, but it looks like it would be strong enough to hold up. You know, I might have to change my driving a little bit here and there, but
35, so.
you know, it looks stout. Everything is pretty intriguing on it for me. I would buy probably the lowest, cheapest one because that's all I could afford.
Which is the most expensive.
So you wouldn't get Dynamics again
I
from
don't think
everything you've
so.
learned?
Would you get it in the Turbo R?
Nope. I don't think it helps us that much when it comes to what we do.
I did drive his in Sand Hollow, and I would say for the generic riding, it did have a smoother, plusher feel.
It rides smooth and
But we ride like idiots. So it
having
doesn't make
firm,
sense.
having firm is nice because you can, you know, it lifts it up a little bit for rock crawling. But you know, I never see, you know, them high speed cornering or at all. I never see that. So
Yeah,
it
the-
comes
the
for
side
the
of
how
the
much
thing-
more money that is. I would want to put the Ride Command screen in it because I do really enjoy that. I don't know why, because the GPS isn't good, and I don't know. I just like that screen and I can control my music, and I don't know. I just like it. So I want that.
Skip song.
But And that'd be my opinion. I mean, the velocity shocks, like we've seen on Josh's machine, I mean, they do phenomenal. Your shocks on your Can-am, you don't need smart shocks for what we do. I mean, your guys' stuff is super plush. They jump well up, you know, and we're not jumping on a racetrack. We're jumping a ledge on a mountain.
Stupid ledge.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, for the price, I don't think I could do it again. Like, I don't know, too much money for that.
Yeah.
For what we do. If I was in the desert, I'd want it because it's really cool technology, but we're not in the desert.
And also be able to clean it, wash it off a lot easier. It's not the same out here where we wheel, like stuff is gonna get beat up.
Yeah.
The body.
That's my opinion. I think it's a great car. I'm excited to see what the aftermarket does with this and how it I don't know, changes the UTV industry, I guess, like see what other UTV manufacturers do to try to be as good as this, or maybe they're already better. Who knows? It's all to be determined, but that's what I would buy.
Yeah, this stuff excites me. I hope, like you say, I hope it changes the industry to where we all have automotive style hubs now, bigger brakes, last longer, make the UTV less maintenance for piddly bearings and brakes.
Yeah, right.
Crap like that. You know?
It's all seems really good on paper. So
I'm excited to see what happens with it for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll see one on the channel. That'd be sick. But
it would be cool if this pushes some of the other manufacturers to step up to another level, mainly Honda, Yamaha, and Kawasaki, to go up one more step. That would be cool. To just have more options of longer
they're gonna get
travel.
some heat for that.
I don't know why.
Because there's a lot of people that love those cars the way they are and think they are on the same. Which in certain categories they may be, like suspension category. If we were talking about suspension only, you know,
All three of those cars,
like the
same
KRX is
price
supposed
as
to
the
be
Turbo
great.
S.
KRX suspension looks amazing. Yeah,
Except that's what I
smooth.
mean. So like,
They just have no power.
if that's all you want, like you're beat up, all you care about is ride quality, like it's already in that tier. But I get what you're saying. I'm just saying there's
I'm
people,
going all out performance. Like,
yeah, and all
you're gonna pick a Honda
Yeah.
Talon, a YXZ, a KRX, or a stock Turbo S Velocity. They're the same price. Well, the Yamaha might be a little cheaper, but those four cars, are they all the same playing field? No, they're not.
Yeah, for all around.
right.
You know.
I get what you're saying. I was just saying that.
Like, I'd like them to develop
clarify.
more. I mean, I like all of those cars already. Are they, from my personal experience, what I'd like to drive? I mean, one of them was. I already had one. I ride with one now. I see what all the cars do, so it's not like, I'm not biased to any brand of anything for any reason. I just like to have what works. Kawasaki suspension looks like it works. And it looks like it works the best, in my opinion. The car, not enough power, and it's too heavy. It needs to be upgraded. And then it would be up there. Does it my physical appearance that I like? No. Is the interior what I like? Not really. But there's more to it than just that.
Yeah, I mean it's all about the well-rounded package. But
Because I don't like the look of the Pro XP in a 64 wide.
no, the
I
long
don't
traveled
like it.
ones look good. And now these, like that's my question to Billy per se. So let's say that cage is strong. Are you gonna be content with that?
No.
That's my point on the whole argument about I got 40, 50K into my Can-am,
Yeah.
is that like, you know, you're still gonna want to put your touches on it. You're still gonna want to change the brake wheels and tires. You're still gonna want to change the cage to make it look nasty, and know it's strong. You know.
Shoot, I want to change the wheels on my turd right now.
So it's like you're still gonna want to do all that stuff. So the price point still is what like hangs me up the most. If I lived somewhere else, I wouldn't have these two turds that sit behind us. And if that was my only hobby, like then I could see it way more. But where we live, it's tough to get out and ride. You know, like
Yeah, that's very true too.
I could see all three of us with a race car. I mean, if we lived.
yeah,
in
if we
the
lived
area,
elsewhere, it'd be so much. I'd be way more into the sport than I am, or hobby, whatever you want to call it, than I already am, and I would probably really want that, the best of the best. You know. I don't know. I think that wraps it up. You guys got anything else?
I think I'm good.
No, that wraps it up for me.
So looks like we've been rolling for about 56 minutes here.
Still stuck with the same piece of junk machine.
Yeah.
Just wait till you hear the intro, the clickety clackety clunkety kabooming.
So hopefully you guys like this style video.
Well,
We're doing it once in a while. We've done a couple like this, similar. If you guys like it, let us know below. If it does well, you know, I got a lot of topics. And if you have a topic and you like this style video, drop it down below. Let us know what you'd like to hear our thoughts on. And maybe we'll get together more often and do some stuff like this. I know we're getting a lot better at talking, so it's easy for me to edit this kind of stuff because it kind of just plug it in.
Better at talking. It's a lot easier for me to me.
Yeah, but I ain't gonna edit that because maybe I just don't care anymore. I don't know.
Probably that.
Yeah. But anyways, you guys get the
A
point.
channel machine is a real possibility too. It is on the horizon.
Yeah, so
It's actually going to happen, whether it happens now or a month or 2 months. It's just in the cards of what happens. But
if you want
it's a real thing.
If you want to support that, merch is the best way. Links are down below. I mean, you guys have heard me say it a million times, but I think that's it. Hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for our next ride. It's gonna be rowdy. I already know it.
Yeah, hit that bell notification too, because that really helps us out. And like, and everything else.
And comment. Just leave a comment.
Yeah, even if it's heat. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I'm trying to reply.
I'm not a fan, but you can leave it anyways.
I delete the heat.
Bye.
Bye.